Did you know that the real culprit behind your fading vision after 60 might have absolutely nothing to do with your eyes themselves? While you are busy updating your glasses prescription, a silent, invisible process inside your bloodstream is systematically starving the delicate cells at the back of your retina, preparing to turn off the lights for good. If you want to protect your independence and keep your sight crystal clear for decades to come, take a brief moment to hit that subscribe button, tap the like icon, and share this video with someone you love who is over 60. Doing this simple act helps us defeat the algorithms that keep this life-saving medical information hidden. Think about the last time you noticed a slight blur in your vision. Perhaps you were reading a book under a dim lamp or trying to read a street sign while driving at dusk. You probably rubbed your eyes, blinked a few times, and blamed it on a long day or the natural passage of time. We have been conditioned to believe that losing our sight is just an unavoidable tax we pay for growing older. We accept the stronger reading glasses, the glare from oncoming headlights, and the occasional cloudiness as the inevitable price of survival. But this acceptance is a dangerous mistake. Your eyes do not just wear out like an old pair of shoes. They do not simply decide to stop working because you celebrated another birthday. What is actually happening is far more active, far more sinister, and completely hidden from the naked eye. Deep inside your body, a microscopic battle is being fought every single day, and your vision is the ultimate casualty. The true enemy is not age. The true enemy is a silent metabolic cascade triggered by fluctuating blood sugar levels that slowly and methodically chokes the life out of your visual system. To understand why this happens, we must first look at the incredible high-demand architecture of the human eye. Your eye is not just a passive camera lens. It is an extension of your brain. The retina, which sits at the very back of your eyeball, is a highly complex layer of light-sensitive tissue. It contains millions of specialized photoreceptor cells called rods and cones. These cells capture incoming light and convert it into electrical signals, which are then sent through the optic nerve to your brain to be translated into the images you see. Because the retina is constantly active, processing trillions of bits of information every single second, it has a massive energy requirement. In fact, gram for gram, the retina has the highest metabolic demand of any tissue in your entire body. It requires more oxygen and more energy than your heart, your kidneys, or even your brain. To meet this massive demand, the retina relies on an incredibly dense, intricate network of microscopic blood vessels. These capillaries are so small and delicate that red blood cells must travel through them in single file, bending and squeezing to deliver essential oxygen and nutrients to the visual cells. This brings us to the core of the crisis. Because these blood vessels are so microscopic and delicate, they are the very first to suffer when your internal chemistry is out of balance. Imagine a highly sophisticated irrigation system watering a pristine, delicate garden. The pipes are as thin as human hairs, designed to deliver exactly the right amount of water to each individual flower. Now imagine that instead of clean, pure water, you begin pumping thick, sticky syrup through those microscopic pipes. The pipes will clog, they will stretch, they will crack, leak, and eventually burst. The flowers downstream, deprived of their water supply, will wither and die. This is precisely what happens to your eyes when your blood sugar fluctuates, even if your doctor tells you that your numbers are completely normal. Many people believe they are safe because they have never been diagnosed with diabetes. They look at their fasting blood glucose or their HbA1c levels, see that they are in the normal or borderline range, and assume their eyes are perfectly fine. This is a tragic misconception. The damage to your retinal blood vessels does not begin when you cross the diagnostic threshold into diabetes. It begins years, sometimes even decades, prior. It starts with the daily, unregulated spikes in blood sugar that occur after you eat a modern, high-carbohydrate meal. When you consume processed carbohydrates, refined sugars, or even large portions of healthy-sounding foods like fruit juices and whole grains, your blood sugar spikes rapidly. In response, your pancreas releases a flood of insulin to clear the sugar from your bloodstream. To your doctor, looking at a single blood test months later, your average blood sugar might look perfectly acceptable, but your blood vessels do not live in an average. They live in the moment-to-moment reality of those daily spikes and crashes. Each individual spike acts like a microscopic sledgehammer hitting the walls of your delicate retinal capillaries. This repetitive trauma initiates a process known as microvascular starvation. The cells that make up the walls of your blood vessels, called endothelial cells, are physically damaged by the high concentration of glucose. As they suffer damage, they lose their structural integrity. They begin to leak fluids, proteins, and even blood directly into the surrounding retinal tissue. This leakage causes localized swelling, particularly in the macula, which is the center of your retina responsible for sharp, detailed, straight-ahead vision. As the swelling increases, your vision becomes distorted and blurry. But the damage does not stop with simple leakage. As the retinal capillaries become progressively damaged and blocked, large areas of your retina are completely cut off from their oxygen supply. The tissue begins to starve. In a desperate last-ditch effort to save itself, the retina sends out emergency chemical signals, primary among them a protein called vascular endothelial growth factor, or VEGF. This protein instructs your body to grow new blood vessels to bypass the blocked ones and restore oxygen to the starving tissue. On the surface, this sounds like a brilliant survival mechanism. But there is a fatal flaw. These newly grown blood vessels are not strong, healthy, and organized like the ones you were born with. Instead, they are fragile, chaotic, and poorly constructed. They sprout like wild weeds across the surface of the retina and into the clear gel that fills your eye. Because they are so weak, they rupture and bleed at the slightest provocation. This bleeding fills the inside of your eye with blood, causing you to see dark spots, floaters, or even sudden complete vision loss. Over time, these fragile vessels can also create scar tissue that pulls on the retina, leading to a catastrophic condition known as retinal detachment. This process of destruction is not an overnight event. It is a slow, quiet, and painful erosion of your quality of life. In the beginning, you might only notice that you need a little more light to read the newspaper. You might find yourself turning up the brightness on your television or phone screen. You might notice that colors do not seem as vibrant as they used to, or that it takes your eyes longer to adjust when you walk from a bright sunny afternoon into a dimly lit room. These are not benign signs of aging. These are the quiet, desperate cries of a starving retina. If you ignore these early warning signs, the damage will continue to compound. The tragedy is that once a retinal cell dies from starvation, it cannot be brought back to life. Your brain can adapt to a certain amount of vision loss by filling in the blanks, which is why many people do not realize how much sight they have lost until the damage is already severe. By the time you notice a permanent blind spot or a significant loss of peripheral vision, millions of delicate photoreceptor cells have already perished. Before we dive deep into the specific chemical traps destroying your vision, let's make a quick pact. If you find value in discovering what is happening inside your body, drop a comment below with the word vision and subscribe. It tells me you are committed to taking back control of your health, and it helps this channel reach more people who are quietly suffering in the dark. To truly understand how to stop this process, we must look closer at the molecular level, at a highly destructive pathway that is rarely discussed in traditional eye clinics. This is the sorbitol pathway, also known as the polyol pathway. In most cells of your body, insulin is required to act as a key, unlocking the cell door to allow glucose to enter and be used for energy. If insulin is not present, glucose remains outside in the bloodstream. However, certain tissues in your body do not require insulin to absorb glucose. These tissues include your nerves, your kidneys, and most importantly, the lenses and retinas of your eyes. The doors to these cells are always wide open. When your blood sugar rises, glucose floods into these cells in massive quantities, completely bypassing the insulin gatekeeping system. Under normal conditions, the cell easily metabolizes glucose for energy. But when the cell is overwhelmed by an excessive influx of glucose, it is forced to use an alternative backup pathway to process the excess sugar. This backup system relies on an enzyme called aldose reductase. This enzyme takes the excess glucose and converts it into a sugar alcohol called sorbitol. This is where the trap snaps shut. Sorbitol is a highly unique molecule. Unlike glucose, which can easily be metabolized or moved across cell membranes, sorbitol is locked inside the cell. It cannot easily cross the cell membrane to escape, and the enzyme required to break it down further, sorbitol dehydrogenase, is present in extremely low quantities in the eyes. As a result, sorbitol begins to accumulate inside the delicate cells of your eye. Because sorbitol is a sugar alcohol, it acts as an incredibly powerful osmotic sponge. It aggressively pulls water from the surrounding areas directly into the cells. As water rushes in, the cells begin to stretch and swell. This is a phenomenon known as osmotic stress, which can be thought of as cellular drowning. The pressure inside the cells rises to dangerous levels. The delicate internal machinery of the cell is crushed, and eventually the cell membrane ruptures, killing the cell. This sorbitol accumulation does not just destroy the light-sensitive retina, it is also the primary driver behind the rapid development of cataracts in people with fluctuating blood sugar. The lens of your eye, which must remain perfectly clear to focus light onto your retina, is made of highly organized proteins called crystallins. When sorbitol accumulates inside the cells of the lens, the resulting osmotic swelling disrupts the perfect transparent structure of these proteins. The lens becomes cloudy, yellowed, and rigid, making it increasingly difficult to see clearly, especially in low-light conditions. When you go to an eye surgeon to have a cataract removed, they are simply removing a lens that has been damaged by this cellular drowning. But if you do not fix the underlying metabolic mechanism, the same destructive forces will continue to ravage the back of your eye, where a surgical replacement is simply not an option. In addition to the sorbitol pathway, there is a second chemical monster unleashed by high blood sugar, the formation of advanced glycation end-products, which goes by the highly appropriate acronym AGEs. To understand glycation, think about what happens when you sear a steak or caramelize sugar in a pan. The heat causes the sugars and proteins to bind together, creating a brown, sticky, caramelized crust. This is known in chemistry as the Maillard reaction. Inside your warm, humid body, a very similar process occurs, even without the high heat of a stove. When glucose levels in your blood remain elevated, the sugar molecules begin to spontaneously and permanently bind to the proteins and lipids that make up your tissues. This process is called glycation, and the resulting damaged molecules are AGs. These AGs act like microscopic superglue inside your body. They bind to the collagen and elastin fibers that give your blood vessels their strength and flexibility. Once these fibers are glycated, they lose their elasticity. The walls of your retinal capillaries become stiff, brittle, and highly susceptible to damage. Furthermore, these sticky AGs attract inflammatory immune cells, creating a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation inside your eyes. This constant inflammatory assault weakens the junctions between the endothelial cells of your blood vessels, making them leak even more aggressively. It is a vicious, self-reinforcing cycle. The more your blood sugar spikes, the more glycation occurs. The more glycation occurs, the more your blood vessels weaken and leak. The more they leak, the more your retina starves, triggering the growth of fragile, bleeding new vessels, leading ultimately to irreversible blindness. To make matters worse, traditional medicine often fails to protect seniors from this slow-motion disaster because of a fundamental flaw in how we monitor metabolic health. When you visit your primary care physician, they typically order a standard fasting blood glucose test or an HbA1c test. The HbA1c test measures the average percentage of glycated hemoglobin in your blood over the past 3 months. While this is a useful tool for diagnosing advanced diabetes, it is a terrible tool for detecting early vision-destroying microvascular damage. An average is just an average. It hides the extreme highs and lows. Imagine a person whose blood sugar is relatively stable throughout the day at a healthy level. Now imagine a second person whose blood sugar swings wildly, spiking to dangerously toxic levels after every meal and then crashing down into low levels hours later. Both of these individuals can end up with the exact same normal HbA1c average of 5.6%. But the second person, with the wild spikes and crashes, is actively destroying their eyesight. These rapid fluctuations, known as glycemic variability, are actually far more toxic to the delicate blood vessels of your eyes than a steady, slightly elevated blood sugar level. When your blood sugar spikes rapidly, it triggers a massive burst of oxidative stress. This sudden surge of glucose overwhelms the mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells. The mitochondria begin to spew out highly reactive molecules called free radicals. These free radicals act like cellular acid, eating away at the protective lining of your blood vessels and accelerating the formation of both sorbitol and AGs. Because these spikes occur primarily in the hours immediately following a meal, they are rarely caught during a morning fasting blood test. You could walk out of your doctor's office with a clean bill of health, completely unaware that your lunch is actively blinding you. We are about to reveal the exact steps you can take today to block this destructive cycle. But first, if you believe that true health education should be accessible to everyone, please hit that share button, send this link to your family group chat, or post it on your social media, because saving a loved one's vision starts with spreading the truth. Now that we have exposed the hidden mechanisms, we must focus on how to stop and reverse this damage. Your body is incredibly resilient. The delicate tissues of your eye have an amazing capacity to heal and regenerate. but only if you provide them with the right tools and remove the toxic stress that is preventing their recovery. The first step in this strategy is to directly target and disable the destructive biochemical pathways we have discussed, the sorbitol pathway and the glycation process. Fortunately, nature has provided us with a selection of highly specific, powerful compounds that can do exactly this. The first and most important of these compounds is a unique fat-soluble form of vitamin B1 called Benfotiamine. Standard vitamin B1, known as thiamine, is water-soluble. While it is essential for overall health, your body cannot easily absorb high doses of it, and it has difficulty penetrating the lipid-rich cell membranes of your nervous system and eyes. Benfotiamine, being fat-soluble, has a bioavailability that is up to 5 times greater than standard thiamine. It can easily cross cell membranes and enter the very tissues that are most vulnerable to blood sugar damage. Once inside the cells, benfotiamine activates a critical enzyme called transcatalase. This enzyme acts like a safety valve on a high-pressure steam pipe. It takes the excess toxic byproducts of glucose metabolism and converts them into harmless compounds, safely steering them away from the sorbitol and glycation pathways. By keeping this safety valve open, benfotiamine effectively blocks the formation of AGs and prevents the osmotic swelling that causes cellular drowning in your retina and lens. Numerous clinical studies have shown that benfotiamine can prevent, and in some cases even help reverse, the early stages of diabetic retinopathy and neuropathy. It protects the structural cells of your capillaries, preventing them from leaking and ensuring that oxygen can continue to reach your visual cells. If you are over 60 and concerned about your vision, benfotiamine is a fundamental nutrient that should be at the absolute center of your daily protective regimen. The second powerful ally in this fight is alpha-lipoic acid, often referred to as the universal antioxidant. What makes alpha-lipoic acid so unique and potent is its ability to operate in both water-soluble and fat-soluble environments inside the body. This means it can protect every single part of your visual system, from the watery fluid inside your eyeball to the lipid-rich membranes of your optic nerve. Alpha-lipoic acid is a direct antidote to the oxidative stress triggered by blood sugar spikes. It acts as a powerful scavenger, neutralizing the free radicals that damage blood vessels. But its benefits go even further. It has the rare ability to regenerate other key antioxidants that have been depleted, such as vitamin C, vitamin E, and glutathione, the body's master antioxidant. By restoring these antioxidant defenses, alpha-lipoic acid helps to reduce chronic inflammation in the retina, allowing damaged capillaries to heal and preventing the abnormal growth of fragile new blood vessels. Furthermore, it has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, helping your body process glucose more efficiently and reducing the severity of those dangerous post-meal blood sugar spikes. To support these internal healing mechanisms, we must also feed the eyes the specific carotenoids they require for physical defense. Your macula, the high-definition center of your retina, is naturally packed with 2 yellow-pigmented antioxidants, lutein and zeaxanthin. These carotenoids act as internal sunglasses for your eyes. They selectively absorb harmful high-energy blue light, which is particularly destructive to the retina, and neutralize the free radicals generated by light exposure. As we age, the concentration of lutein and zeaxanthin in our macula naturally declines, leaving our visual cells highly vulnerable to both light damage and metabolic stress. By supplementing with high-quality lutein and zeaxanthin, you can rebuild this protective macular pigment, shielding your starving retinal cells from further damage and improving your visual contrast and night vision. However, taking supplements is only half of the battle. To truly stop this destructive mechanism, you must change how you feed your body. You do not need to adopt an impossibly restrictive diet to protect your vision. Instead, you need to understand the physics of digestion and use it to your advantage. One of the most powerful and simple strategies you can implement immediately is the concept of food sequencing. The order in which you eat the food on your plate has a massive impact on your post-meal blood sugar spike. If you sit down to a meal and immediately eat a piece of bread, a bowl of pasta, or a potato, those fast-acting carbohydrates are rapidly broken down into glucose. They empty quickly from your stomach and rush into your bloodstream, causing a massive immediate spike that triggers the sorbitol and glycation pathways. But if you change the order of your meal, you can completely flatten this glucose curve. Always start your meal by eating your fiber first, which usually means a salad or non-starchy vegetables. Fiber acts like a protective mesh inside your digestive tract. It coats the walls of your small intestine, slowing down the rate at which your body can absorb glucose. Next, eat your proteins and fats, such as fish, chicken, eggs, or healthy oils. These macronutrients further slow down gastric emptying, ensuring that your food moves through your system at a controlled, measured pace. Finally, eat your complex carbohydrates at the very end of the meal. By the time the carbohydrates reach your digestive tract, the absorption process has been so thoroughly slowed down by the fiber and protein that glucose enters your bloodstream in a gentle, steady trickle rather than a violent flood. This simple shift in eating habits can reduce your post-meal blood sugar spike by up to 70%, completely neutralizing the metabolic sledgehammer that is trying to destroy your retinal blood vessels. In addition to food sequencing, you should look closely at when you eat. Your body's ability to process glucose is highly dependent on your circadian rhythm. In the morning and early afternoon, your body is naturally more sensitive to insulin, meaning it can clear glucose from your blood with ease. As the sun goes down and your body begins to prepare for sleep, your insulin sensitivity naturally drops and your body becomes less efficient at handling glucose. If you eat a large, carbohydrate-heavy meal late in the evening, your blood sugar will remain elevated for hours while you sleep, bathing your delicate retinal cells in a toxic, sugary bath all night long. To protect your eyes, make it a rule to eat your largest, most carbohydrate-rich meal early in the day and keep your evening meal light, low in sugar, and consumed at least 3 hours before you go to bed. Do not underestimate the power of physical movement in this recovery process. You do not need to spend hours in the gym to protect your eyes. A simple 10 to 15-minute walk immediately after a meal can have a profound effect on your metabolic health. When you walk, your large leg muscles contract. These muscles require a massive amount of energy to move, and they can pull glucose directly out of your bloodstream to use as fuel without even requiring insulin. This act of muscle contraction acts like a metabolic sponge, soaking up the excess sugar from your meal before it can reach your eyes and cause damage. This post-meal walk is one of the most effective, accessible, and completely free treatments for protecting your microvasculature. As we look at the big picture, it is easy to feel overwhelmed by the complexity of our bodies and the hidden dangers that seem to lurk in every corner of modern life. But this knowledge is not meant to cause fear. It is meant to empower you. The realization that your fading vision is not an inevitable consequence of aging, but rather a direct result of a specific, understandable metabolic process is incredibly liberating. It means that you are not a helpless bystander watching your world slowly fade into a blur. You are in the driver's seat. You have the power to intervene, to change the course of your health, and to protect the precious gift of sight. Think about what your vision really represents. It is your independence. It is your ability to drive yourself to the grocery store, to look at the faces of your children and grandchildren, to read the pages of a favorite book, and to enjoy the simple beauty of a sunset. It is your connection to the world around you. When you protect your eyes, you are not just protecting two physical organs in your head. You are protecting your autonomy, your joy, and your dignity. Do not let a silent, preventable chemical cascade rob you of your future. Stop blaming your eyes for the damage being done by your blood sugar. Understand the mechanism, take action, feed your body the nutrients it desperately needs, and claim the vibrant, crystal-clear life you deserve.